Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn. I'm Lauren Smith with the International Franchise Association, and we have a great 30 minutes lined up for you. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that we are recording today's webinar and will make it available later this evening on community.franchise.org. If you have any questions for today's speakers, please add them to the chat box and they will be addressed toward the end. Today's topic is how to create a successful virtual Discovery Day experience, and it is brought to us by the Entrepreneur Source. Here to provide today's discussion is Susan Stilwell and Tamara Loring. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to the Entrepreneur Source for sponsoring today's Lunch and Learn. I'll go ahead and turn things over to you.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining Tamara and myself. We are going to be shooting you with the fire hose today. We've got lots of great things to share with you, and really the topic of how to create a successful Discovery Day experience is something near and dear to both of our hearts. You know, as we really think about how we got to this place, Tamara and I used to host in-person Discovery Days. We used to get the airline tickets. We used to get people into our business. We would do all the coordination. We were limited to the number of days we had to do that. So even prior to COVID, we sat down and we said, hey, are we able to provide an experience to our candidates that would create a great virtual Discovery Day experience? So a lot of the components you're going to see today, whether you do virtual or in person, really came from creating a great Discovery Day experience. And one of the things we like to remind people of is this should not be a closing event, right? It feels like it should be a closing event. Let's get people there. Let's get people signed on. But what a Discovery Day should be is a chance for you to meet the people that you're going to be in business with for the next 10 years. Is this going to be a right choice for them and their families and their future? And is this going to be a good fit for you and your organization? So we even decided not only is this not going to be a closing event, this is going to be what we call a Meet the Team Day event. A lot of people in franchising use Discovery Days. I think there's a lot of things that are attached to that. And we want it to be a little bit different. And really, it's about us getting to know each other, getting to know your candidates, and being able to learn more about us as an organization, our systems, and really have that great experience. So a couple things that we do before a Meet the Team or virtual Discovery Day experience or in person is we make sure that the candidate is ready to have a great experience. So really took a look at our awards experience. Are we creating that building block approach, and are they getting all of the foundational components that they need? So then when we have that time with them, it's really a reinforcement of what they've learned. So do they have a good overview of your system and your technology, your training, your support, the marketing, the business development? Have they talked to franchisees through panel or validation calls? Have they had a chance to spend some time with your franchise disclosure document? And are they ready to come in and meet with your team? So really take some time to really go through and make sure that they've had that building block approach and that they're ready, and you don't skip a step, right? It's not about getting as many people as you can there. It's getting people there that are at the same place so that you don't have one person that's only done 2 steps, one person that's done 5 steps, one person that's done 6 steps. Whatever your awards experience is, make sure they've completed all of those steps and they're ready for the event. So one of the things that we have really enjoyed, whether it's in person or virtual, is we put together what we call a pre-Discovery Day or pre-Meet the Team Day questionnaire. Doesn't need to be long, but it needs to be meaningful. You want to give your candidate the opportunity to spend some time with this. I thought that I would just show you a real example. We actually just did one last week, and this is an actual example of not just the questions, but the information that we gain, right? And, the questions really are about how they're feeling and how we need to make them feel. right? They're going to forget about what you say. They're going to remember how you make them feel. So we want to know, what do you value in life? You know, how do you anticipate our model helping you to meet your income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals? You know, what information are you seeking to clarify, right? What do you need more information on? We want to prep our team. What strengths do you think that you bring to our organization? And what's motivating you to make this transition? And you know, what can we share with you about our culture, our organization, to make sure that, you know, you're a good fit for us, and vice versa. So I think what you'll see is, when you're very meaningful about the questions that you ask, it's about really helping them understand, you know, some of the dangers that they're facing if they don't do something. What are the opportunities, but really reinforcing those strengths that they bring to the table to be a great franchisee and really take ownership of their future. So take some time to look at what kind of questions you're asking, and making sure that you're, you know, really prepared to do that. Now, the other thing that we use this for is, if there's something on this questionnaire that comes back that's concerning, that might be better handled offline through a validation call, something that might set the group in a direction we don't want to go, it gives us the opportunity to address those things beforehand, so that we make sure it's a good experience for everybody. Make sure that you're preparing the candidate. Again, whether it's in person, making sure that they know that this is an awards experience, make sure they know who the other candidates are going to be and the other presenters. If it is virtual, remind them that they will be on camera, that, you know, we want to see them. We want to make sure that they're engaged. We want to make sure that they're prepared, testing the technology prior to the session, ask them to log in early in case there's any technical issues. This is really a funny one. Have them dress professionally. Now, do they need to wear a business suit? No, but we'd like them to bring them their best selves. I mean, Tamara and I have been a little surprised at how times people may not bring them their best selves. And, you know, the wife beater and the baseball cap probably isn't going to go off very well with the awards committee. So just reminding them that, you know, to bring their best selves. Tell them to have water and coffee on hand, let them know that there will be breaks. Ours is 5 hours. That's a long time to be in front of a camera. We do breaks. They are not long breaks. So you want to make sure that they've got, you know, if they need to get lunch or refreshments. We always remind them that this is the awards committee. Our franchise developers are not on the awards committee. I run the franchise development team. I don't get a vote from the awards committee, right? My job is to set them up for success. It is the awards committee, who are our presenters, who will let them know if they have been considered for an award or not. And then certainly if there's anything that you want to give out prior, make sure that you ship those in advance, promotional items, books, products, just make sure that they've got them. Sometimes it's even nice to, you know, send them a DoorDash gift card or whatever, if you would want them to have lunch delivered.
Hey, Suze, I've got a quick question. Renee's actually asking, if the pre-discovery day questionnaire is not completed, do we allow candidates to move forward with a discovery day?
No, we do not. That is part of the awards experience. What you have to remember is, if they can't do something as simple as filling out a 5-question questionnaire, number one, are they the type of franchisee you want in your system? Right? This is all part of the awards experience. And are you making sure that they're prepared for a great day? So we will actually postpone them. We run them twice a month, 2 times a month, right? And if something is preventing them from moving forward, we say, no problem. Let's make sure you're set up for a great day. When would be the next time that you would be able to commit to this and get that paperwork back to us, right? It's all part of that experience. So we do require that. Good question. Again, this is just kind of a sample agenda. Make sure you get that out in advance of what the topics are going to be discussed and what times they're going to be happening, and that they know when their breaks are. You know, and kind of going back to that, a lot of times it's like, well, I have to pick up my son at school at 3 o'clock. We will actually say, you know what, attending the entire event is important to the awards committee. So let's pick another date that you can find other arrangements for your kids. This is an important decision for you. This is an important decision for us. Let's make sure that we're all committed to the same time. So we have no problem making sure that we stay within those requirements. You want to learn about your candidate, make sure that you allow them to present. Everybody wants to know who's in the room. Again, whether it's virtual or in person, allow them a couple days to create a 2 or 3 slide presentation about themselves. Make sure it's easy, pre-formatted, make sure that they know that they will have a few minutes to present themselves. I put in just a sample of what we do, right? Make sure that their picture, where they're from. We love to learn about them as a person. We love it when they put in pictures, the things that are important, her family, her grandkids, things that, really, why is this important to her? We want, hobbies, dogs, pets. We love that, that piece of it. Obviously, we want them to share their professional background, what talents do they bring to the table to be successful in our system, and how, based on what you've learned so far, how do you see our business model meeting your goals, and what have you enjoyed most about the awards experience? I don't use the word process. Process is a sales term. This is about an experience and creating a great client experience. So putting together a template. Now you want to review these beforehand too. I've had people put together a 40-slide presentation of their last vacation. Clearly that's not going to happen in 7 minutes. So you just want to make sure we're staying on point and that your developer has a chance to review that prior to the session. So you want to prepare all the presenters on your team. So we actually create one more document. So what we're going to do is we're going to review the pre-Meet the Team Day questionnaire. We're going to review the candidate presentation. But what we also do is we have the developer create what we call director's notes, right? This person has probably been working with this candidate for, weeks, sometimes months. So we want the developer to be able to present their candidate, the need, their experience, their financials, their timeline, their goals, their decision criteria, who they validated with, and any additional information such as DISC reports or assessments. So we do what we call a pre-Meet the Team Day call. This is where our developers present to all of the presenters. We go through this information. So everybody is really well prepared for a great day. So Tamara, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you to talk about the delivery of the content.
Thank you so much, Suze. I appreciate it. Yes, when we used to have life discovery events, they used to run over 2 days. But really, like Susan said, what we have found is for our virtual events, it's really best to keep it to 1 day and really no more than 5 hours with ample of breaks in between. Prior to the actual event, like Susan said, our Fran Dev team does an amazing job to help us digest the information about our candidates so that we get to know these individuals before actually interacting with them. The day of the event, what I like to do is I like to log on early, and what I have found is so do our attendees. So often, the cool thing is the best conversations are actually had impromptu before the actual Discovery Day event even has started. During the session, one of the things that I would like to do is strive to make every effort to make our guests feel welcome and comfortable. And minutes before they start, I'll even say something like, hey, I encourage you to have a drink or a snack handy, and it's absolutely okay for you to drink and snack during our sessions. Usually they already have these things handy because our Fran Dev team has really done a great job prepping them for that. Remember, nowadays, people tend to have shorter attention spans, and especially I find during a virtual setting. So I do my best to simulate a live session as much as possible. I try to read the room, and the way I do this is sometimes you'll see me glance to the side. I'll actually have multiple screens set up. One where I can look people in the face or in the eyes, right? So I have the attendees on one screen, and then I've got another screen with my supporting slides. Also, our groups tend to be on the smaller side, usually no more than 10 people. So I tell the participants that I will intentionally not mute them. They can, of course, mute themselves if they need to do so, but I want them to feel like they're part of a conversation, and I encourage them to participate and ask questions throughout the entire session. You saw the agenda that Susan shared with you before. What I like to do is quickly review the agenda with them, because some people think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be sitting on a Zoom session for 5 hours. So I want them to know in advance that we're going to have scheduled breaks, and they can kind of anticipate when those will be. But of course, I also share with them that, you know what, we're adults here. If they need to stand up and stretch their legs, absolutely. If they need to step away for a second, that's absolutely fine. All I ask them to do is turn off their camera and mute themselves for the few minutes that they're away. And when they're back, to turn their camera back on so that we know that they're. We have found that in between facilitators, to obviously give them maybe a 5-minute break, but after at the very least 2.5 hours, this is a great time for us to give them a quick lunch break. Not for terribly long. Usually we give them no more than 20 to 30 minutes. And one of the things that we absolutely like to do is to delight and surprise. For instance, depending on your brand, Susan already mentioned that you may want to send them some swag, maybe a care basket, maybe something with some of your products. If you happen to be in the food and beverage industry, right? Give them something that maybe they can try during the discovery event. But if you happen to be in a service brand such as ours, Susan already mentioned, maybe something like sending them an Uber Eats or a DoorDash certificate. We have found that things like that delight and surprise, and absolutely has the intended impact. So run with it, have fun with it, and be creative. 5 hours, no doubt, is a long time. So to keep it interesting and mix it up, we will have multiple presenters, and the virtual realm has really made it so easy for us to be able to leverage presenters from all across the country. Super easy to do because it really doesn't interrupt their days. We don't have to just fly somebody out for an event for an hour or two. And really, the candidates really appreciate leaving the Meet the Team event day feeling like they've had the opportunity to meet at least some of the people who will support them in the key areas as they build and grow their businesses. So what we'll do is, as you can see on the screen, we'll allow presenters maybe 30 or 40 minutes. And of course, we always encourage them to make it as interactive as possible. If you happen to have a brick or mortar location and you want to give them a feel for the home office, again, be creative. Feel free to take them on a tour. Don't be afraid to leverage technology. If you think, oh my gosh, what could possibly go wrong? Maybe have a pre-recorded session where you do a tour of the office and then you play that video during your virtual Meet the Team day. Like Susan already mentioned too, the presenters that happen to present on the virtual Meet the Team day are also the people who will be on the awards committee. So franchise developers are not part of that committee. They set up the candidates for success, understanding that the presenters and the people they interact with will be on the awards committee meeting. Now, if your team is like our team, it's probably not practical to have everyone on your team participate. So what we will do is we'll have a few slides dedicated to each and every single department, just so that people can understand the breadth and the depth of the different teams. And then one of the things I'll prep them for is say that the department heads will be on the virtual Meet the Team event, and they certainly will go into more detail about how each and every team supports new franchisees, as well as, of course, existing ones. The other thing, of course, that I try to do is not to kill attendees with long and boring presentations and lengthy PowerPoint. As a matter of fact, I want to make sure that I'm not talking at them for hours and hours at end. And most likely, most of the information that they need they already have received. So I really just use the slides as visual aids to enrich the conversations we're having. As a matter of fact, having done these, Susan and I were thinking about it the other day. We think we probably have done hundreds of these virtual Meet the Team events. And one of the things you notice is the conversation starts to repeat themselves, the questions people have. So I'm now at the point where I'm able to grab some of the slides to highlight a question that people had. And I can see them just be in awe and amazement, thinking like, oh my goodness, how did you know that I was going to ask that question? So that is really the feeling that you would want to evoke with people, rather than them sitting and feeling like they're just taking it in. It's really about creating that synergy and that energy where they feel that they're part of the conversation. Of course, I encourage people to participate. So I ask a lot of open-ended questions, and I give every attendee the opportunity to be heard. So for those of you who understand the different disc styles, you'll have the people who are very talkative, you'll have the other people who are a little bit more reserved. So again, because we're dealing with maybe 10 people, so I make a point and I actually have my pencil handy and I make notes as I go along to make sure that I call on everyone. And of course, if you ask open-ended questions, you also need to be prepared to defer the questions that you shouldn't or that cannot be answered by you. But that's really easy. And here's just an example of how I may handle something like that. When somebody asks a question, I first and foremost acknowledge that, saying something like, oh, wow, that is a really, really great question. But you know what, I'm really not the best person to answer that. So why don't we make sure that we make a note, jot that down. Following my session here on the virtual Meet the Team Day event, right after this, Ian or somebody from my marketing or IT team is going to be on. Let's make sure we ask them that question. Or if I know it's something that cannot be answered on the Discovery Day event, I may say something like, gosh, I definitely understand why that is important to know, but that is actually better answered by one of our franchisees. So after the event today, make sure that you speak to your developer and see if they can connect you with one of our business owners. And what I'll do too is make a note to make sure that I follow up with a developer after the event to make sure that we follow through and follow up on that. Next, one of the things I love about the virtual platforms is really there are just so many cool features, half of which I probably don't even use or know how to use, because sometimes it's a little bit like multitasking, right? How many of you are good at being able to present while checking text, while trying to answer all these things? Probably not so many of us, but you do get better at it the more you do it. It's kind of like learning how to drive a car. I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I need to check the blind spot and shift gears and do all these things. And then one day you just, drive and you didn't even think about it. So running these virtual sessions can become like that. But just like Susan and I are doing right now, tag team, have somebody maybe check or monitor the chats while somebody else is presenting. Or if you don't have the luxury to do it, at the very least do what Lauren did for us today. Say, hey, do you know what? During my session, I'm going to be focusing on the content, but towards the end of my segment, I will dedicate maybe 5 minutes, review the text, and give you the opportunity to interact and ask me some questions. So yeah, definitely don't be afraid of the technology. Tag team if you need to make this as interactive as possible. And then at the end of the event, of course, I thank attendees and I show appreciation for people investing so much time with us so that we could mutually discover whether we should be in business together or not. Most people are amazed. They're like, T, in the beginning you said that, we're going to be spending 5 hours together. I can't believe where the time's gone. And that's really the kind of feedback you want. Keeping people engaged for that long where they're like, wow, how did I just enter this time warp? Also, what I do at the end of the event is I set some expectations about what will happen next. One of the things that we will do is we tell them that they'll be receiving a post-Meet the Team Day questionnaire. On that questionnaire, they'll be able to give us feedback of how the event went, but I also point them to the fact that the very last question on that questionnaire is going to ask them whether they want to be considered for an award or not. And then I explain and I say, if they say yes, That doesn't mean that they'll automatically be awarded a franchise, but what that means is that during our awards committee meeting, we will have a discussion on whether we believe as an organization that it would be mutually beneficial for us to enter into this relationship together, right? That is what that yes does. If they say no, I actually think it's a good thing also, because first and foremost, we respect that. We want them to reach a point of clarity whether they think that they can do well in this business and whether this is going to be a good fit. So if they come to a point of clarity and they don't think that we are the right franchise for them, that's great. Then we will not even have that discussion on whether or not we should award them a franchise. The other thing that I do during these Meet the Team Day events, and actually I covered this prior to covering the post Discovery Day questionnaire, and that is I have a frank conversation with them about the mindsets our successful franchisees have. You can see them on the screen right now. During our events, I will take the time to go over these one by one. I won't do that today, but the thing I want to leave with them is that I can honestly tell them that we have never seen a franchisee fail who has followed our system. But certainly we have seen franchisees who have failed to follow the system. I tell them, look, franchising is not for everyone. Our system is certainly not for everyone. But if you're going to invest in a franchise, like we highlight in bullet point number 4 there, you have to be willing to follow the core system guardrails. Or if you look at number 5, or at the very least, be willing to let go of your past winning formula to embrace a new one. We've been very fortunate. We attract highly successful people into our organization, but they are new to our system. They need to spare us their brilliance if they're going to give the system a chance to work, right? And these are decisions that I cannot make for them as their potential franchisor. I need them to do some soul searching about whether or not they are willing and able to follow a proven system, and whether or not they want to leverage and use this system as a vehicle to reach their own income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals. We want to make sure that they are going to be a good culture fit for us. I always tell them, I cannot teach you culture. You're either drawn to us or you say, you know what, that's weird, good for them, but this is not for me. And I'd much rather we figure that out before we sign an agreement. But once they sign the agreement, they need to honor the system that they invested in. And that is what I challenge them with. These are the frank conversations that we have with them during our Meet the Team Day event. And I can honestly tell you, people respect us for that. They appreciate us for having these frank conversations and not just trying to sugarcoat them or try to strong arm them or even convince them that they should sign on the dotted line. So after the event, by means of the post Meet the Team Day questionnaire, we have them reflect on these mindsets, and we have them, we ask them to let us know which ones they're committed to and which ones they admittedly already know that they will need to work on. And so what Susan pulled up there for you right now is actually a response that we got back. What was it? Just, maybe 10 days ago.
Yeah.
So are there maybe some things that you want to highlight on there, Susan, that we look for as we review these?
Yeah, I think the neat thing about this is, again, it gives them the opportunity to say, you know, how did we do? What was the experience like? Did you get the things that you wanted to? But now we can say, look, you know, how are you going to capitalize this business? A business is an investment, and we need to understand that you've got a plan to do that. Has anything changed, right? You know, since then? And again, when we get to the mindset piece, right, this is where this is not a make it or break it, but boy, what a great tool to go in with. So being able to get this, here's what I will tell you about our Meet the Team Day experiences. You know, we are making our 36th award for the year. We are running these every other week, and we rarely get a no, but when we get a no, it's mutually beneficial. And basically what we tell our candidates is, you know what, I'd rather squash your dream than take your money. We all know that it's not about a signing event. It's really about bringing the right folks in. And again, Tamara and I have been doing these for a long time, and we've done them in a lot of different ways. And, you know, I line them up, she knocks them down, right? And we have a lot of fun doing it, but I think our candidates know that we've well prepared them. I think that they have a great experience during the event. And even if it's a no, we celebrate that because, and you know, they dodged a bullet and we dodged a bullet. It's about bringing the right folks in and creating a great experience. So again, nobody cares about your sales process. That's yours. That's internal. That's what you do. They're going to forget everything that you said. They will remember how you made them feel. So even if they don't move forward with your brand, we want them to tell your story. We want them to say, boy, I went to a Meet the Team or a Discovery Days event with this brand for whatever reason it didn't work out for me, but boy, this is a great company. Their values, how they do business, how they treat people. If your candidates walk away with that, that is a win. And I will guarantee you that over time, that will really build and you'll really get that reputation for being a fantastic brand that really cares about people and cares about a great candidate experience. And that's really what our focus is. So for us, again, high energy, engaging, professional, conversational, stay away from the fear-producing stuff. There's plenty of time for that, right? So when I'm prepping my candidates, I'll even talk about the FDD. And I'll say, look, you know what? You're going to have a lot of questions about the FDD. And don't you worry. You and I are going to have plenty of time to do that after the Meet the Team a Day event. What I want you to do is I want you to get to know the people that are going to be there with you shoulder to shoulder, making this business a success. You want to know who those folks are. So let's save the details for afterwards. Spend the time getting to know the folks, know that attention spans are shorter, and make sure you let that personality shine through. So, you know, that's some of the things. And again, at this point, they really should know everything. They should be able to come to that point of clarity based on what they've learned. And again, when you do this, let's do this from a place of excitement. So that was, I told you we were going to shoot you with the fire hose. Certainly want to open it up to any questions you guys might have.
Very good. So I've seen that some people have asked, and Lauren, feel free if you want to ask the question or read the questions, but whether the slide deck is going to be shared, and I believe Lauren is going to be sending that out after the event. As I'm scanning here too, Alex was asking, do you have any recommendations of pros and cons of sharing the FDD before or after Discovery Day? We've seen it recommended differently by different groups for virtual and in person. Any thoughts there, Susan?
Yeah, you know, and I do not use the FDD as a sales tool, right? And I never say, hey, we're going to do an FDD review. The way I use the FDD is really at this point, you want to understand the investment and you want to understand the return on investment. You know, so the FDD is a great tool to do that. We actually have a tool that we call a revenue calculator that helps them build a 5-year business plan so they can really start to get their head around the numbers. But I address all of their questions, and what I don't call it an FDD review. I let them know that I've been around for 18 years. I'm happy to answer any questions, whether it's something you've learned along the way or anything that you need clarification around in the franchise disclosure documents. So we've had a lot of success there. And again, I don't close the door. I certainly let them know as we continue to work through the details, right? People are far more willing to get excited and take that deeper dive once they've made that connection of, wow, these are the folks I want to do business with. So we're going to allow them to have plenty of time to get those details. I will work them through the details, and that has just been a real winning formula for us.
Very good. Then the next question, and I think we kind of answered it, but Kai let us know if we did. And he said or asked, do you tend to keep the same timing schedule, whether this discovery day is done virtually or in person? So as I mentioned before, our in-person discovery days used to run over 2 days because if people were going to fly across the country, it just didn't make sense to keep them here for 5 hours. But in a virtual realm, we've been able to condense it. I also saw another question on whether we would do hybrid sessions. I know that hybrid sessions are becoming more and more popular. We've actually done hybrid sessions in training. We have not, Susan, remind me, I forget. I don't think we've done hybrid discovery days. My gut says I would not recommend that, either do one or the other, especially for a discovery day event. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's really interesting. We are a virtual business. Like I mentioned before, we moved into virtual discovery days even pre-COVID, right? And then all of a sudden COVID hit and everybody's like, how do you guys do it? Like, what do we do? And it's like, oh, we're happy to share that with you. But, if you're a brick and mortar, right? And hey, I want to take you in for a haircut and, or I want to, serve you a dish, you have to ask yourself, is that experience better happening prior where you could really focus on the people, or do you want to have that experience in person? A lot of that's going to depend on how many units you have, how many places you go. Can you still create that virtual experience without, walking into, a store? It really will be dependent on your business model. But I think that there is a way even to, before you make the financial investment, and look, it's expenses. When you're paying for airline tickets and you're paying for hotels, or you're asking the candidates to sponsor this, you might be losing some great franchisees as a result of it, right? So you kind of have to ask yourself, if that is going to be an important step, where does that fall? Is that something maybe that you do after for those folks that are approved and you want to take that extra step? But that will really be modified based on your business model.
Well, I see Lauren's come back on, so I think we're getting the hook here. I know we haven't had the opportunity to answer all the questions, so Lauren, I'll let you deal with how we deal with that, but we'll definitely send the recording and the PowerPoints. Thank you guys for all the kudos out there. We really had so much fun sharing this information with you, and we trust that you've been able to glean some nuggets of things that you will like to try out and things that will be valuable. Any other thoughts, Susan, before we hand it back to Lauren?
No, this was really fun. Like I said, Tamara and I got a little nervous because we didn't know how we were going to cram it into just one lunch hour, but we appreciate you spending your lunch hour with us, and happy to help you out in any other way if there's any questions afterwards. So everybody have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Susan and Tamara. This was excellent content and excellent feedback from all of you. We really do appreciate it. Again, this webinar was recorded, and along with the presentation deck will appear on our website early this evening. You'll be able to find that at community.franchise.org. Thank you very much again to Susan and Tamara and the Entrepreneur Source team. And again, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day and stay safe and healthy. Bye.
Thank you.